Me and two friends got tattoos during the climax of the total solar eclipse on April 8th. We decided to meet and drive to the middle of nowhere in order to perform an offering to Mother Nature, and we ended up scaring the shit out of the National Park Ranger, so stay tuned to hear that story. A few days ago in North America, there was a total solar eclipse, and spoiler alert, the world didn't end. Okay, maybe that wasn't a spoiler alert, because obviously the world didn't end, but just making an homage to another video I posted about my mom's conspiracy theories. Anyways, let's stop dragging my mom under the bus. On April 8th, my friends and I decided to drive into the middle of the nowhere to view the eclipse. I live in Toronto, Ontario. I've been excited about this eclipse for a really long time. And when I was reminded that the date was April 8th, that rhymed, I booked it off like in January. And I was so excited to watch it. But then only a few days before the eclipse, as I started doing more research and trying to plan where I would do it, there's a beautiful park across the street from my house, and that's where I was gonna watch it. But then I learned that in Toronto, it was only gonna be a 99.9% totality eclipse. And I was like, 99.9%, that's like pretty total, right? That's pretty much the full thing. But everyone online was saying 99.9 is not good enough. It's not the full eclipse. You're not going to get the total darkness of the sky. You're not going to get the change of weather. And so I was conflicted. I was like, oh my God, I booked this time off. I made so much about it in my mind. I psyched myself up about it. And I was really discouraged. But I just came to terms with the fact that it'll just be what it's going to be. I even considered booking a hotel out in Hamilton the night before because it was supposed to be a total eclipse in Hamilton, but it didn't really work out with my planning my personal life, and I just came to accept that I was going to see the 99.9. And then the day before, I was at work with one of my besties, and her boyfriend was sitting at the bar, and we're just chatting about the eclipse, and I was like, oh, what are your plans? Like, oh, we don't know anymore. We don't think we're going to do anything special, because they'd invited me out to go to the Scarborough Bluffs to watch it. And I was like, I kind of want to stay close to home because I have to do vlogging that day anyway, work on YouTube videos. So I just want to bip out of the house, see the eclipse, come back in, back to work. And I said that morning, guys, would you want to drive out to like the middle of nowhere and just watch the eclipse so we could get the best eclipse experience possible? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, what? Really? They're like, yeah. What time? I was like, oh, we gotta plan things. I gotta like contact my partner and figure out like my schedule was fine. I had the day off, but then I had to get someone else to like take the day off work. God bless their boss. And it just all kind of fell into place like clockwork, like magic. And what we agreed upon was, okay, I took on the responsibility of planning the whole day. I left work early that day and started buying things for the eclipse. I decided I wanted to give an offering to the sun, the moon, and to Mother Nature. Since this was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, this was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime offering. Well, within my budget, but I think considering what my budget is, my offering was quite generous. I went out, and in traditional paganism, you offer bread, honey, milk. These are traditional things you offer to Mother Nature. And I said, I'm going to give the eclipse the best I could get. I went and bought some new crystals to offer to Mother Nature to sanctify the ground where I would leave the offering. We bought 3 moonstones, 2 rainbow moonstones, and 1 earthy moonstone. And then I bought first the loaf of bread. I had bought a nitro cold brew at a really cool local cafe, which I have to go back to. It was a great experience there. And they were also a bakery. And I was sitting outside drinking the cold brew and like, wow, this is a good cold brew. And I looked up and there's like the most beautiful sourdough loaf that I ever saw. And I was like, it was a really fancy one, it was like a $10 loaf of bread. And I was like, this is what I need for my offering. Went in, bought the loaf of bread and I was like, okay, next, the honey. I want to get a beautiful big honeycomb, something you'd say for a really special occasion. And we ended up going to Fiesta Farms in Toronto and buying a beautiful honeycomb. And I bought a liter of the best milk I could think of. And it was a liter of organic, pasture-raised bison milk. No, water buffalo milk. Yeah, that's what it was. And I've had this stuff before. It is delicious, nutritious. And I thought perfect for my offering. I also bought a really beautiful orange, and the orange had like the stem attached with the leaves. By the time we got to the park, the leaves fell off, but I offered an orange as well. My gal pal actually brought, she called it a wood flat, but basically it was like a flat, a chip from a tree trunk. And it was so gorgeous because I was just put my offering on like a biodegradable paper plate. And I thought, you know, biodegradable, that's good, whatever. And when she showed up with this and she was willing to offer that, I was like, okay, this is epic. And then we brought 3 beeswax candles as well. One of which was purple and was given to me for my birthday several years ago. And I was saving it for a special occasion. When I get a purple beeswax candle, I do not light it willy-nilly. I save it for a very special occasion. And we burnt through this beeswax candle during the eclipse, and it was incredible. So we started getting this plan together and decided, okay, we're gonna do like a light ritual. So I stayed up really late that night, planning what we were gonna do, how we were gonna give the offering, communicating with everyone involved, asking questions, being like, okay, because I know like my friend, she recently became a witch and she's really excited about that. It's really ironic because she used to like tease me. She'd be like, oh, you're so spiritual. Ooh. And she used to make fun of me for it. And now all of a sudden she became a witch. And it was really cool for our friendship because she said, you know, I was so mean to you about it for so long. And then when I turned a new leaf and decided I wanted to go down a spiritual path, you were just so supportive and you never said anything bad about it. And yeah, because why would I? So that brought us closer together, and I knew it was going to be her first real ritual, and it's epic. This like once in a lifetime total solar eclipse that we're driving in the middle of nowhere to experience. The reason why we chose to drive in the middle of nowhere was because we wanted to do a ritual and we didn't want to be in a crowd of people and they'd be like, what are these crazy people doing? So we decided to leave our homes at 10 a.m. the next morning, and it was a whirlwind. Stayed up so late getting ready for the eclipse, writing a script or a flow plan for us to follow that we didn't end up really following, but it all happened perfectly. It gave us some structure and some strong intention, and it communicated expectations from people, which was fantastic. She picked us up at 10 a.m. and it was a really fun day. We started driving out. I had chosen something called Selkirk National Park, which, why did I choose it? I can't tell you. I looked at this map I found online of the total eclipse zone of totality, a map showing where it would be. And at first we were just going to drive to Hamilton, find like a park there. And then I realized that it was only going to be a total eclipse in Hamilton for 1 minute. And I was like, once in a lifetime opportunity. That's not good enough. And in Niagara Falls, it was going to be a 3-minute total eclipse. But obviously we weren't going to go to Niagara Falls because it was going to be so busy and we're going to be stuck in traffic and have no privacy. And Niagara Falls had declared a state of emergency. So it just made us feel uncomfortable. We didn't want to be herded like wild cats. So we decided to do our own thing. I just looked at the map, and while I was looking at the eclipse map, zooming in and out, I just saw a spot of green. It was by the water. It was within the full 3-minute zone of the eclipse. And it just said Selkirk Community Park. And I said, okay. And I went on Google, looked it up. It's a national park. It's open. I didn't even really have time to do that much research. And it was all a leap of faith. It was such an amazing example of what you could do and what you could achieve if you just have faith in the situation. And if you just take steps forward and pivot as you go. If something goes wrong, you pivot and keep going and come up with backup plans. And that's what we did. You know, traffic was pretty bad getting to Hamilton, and we were supposed to pick someone else up on the way. And our whole route was geared towards picking up that person, and they canceled last minute when we were already en route. So we had to pivot. We just stopped for coffee in Hamilton, and then we went straight to Selkirk National Park. And Selkirk was perfect. So I looked on the website and it said, you have your daily fees, like camping site fees, whatnot. But the park, when we got there, was actually closed, but you're allowed to have foot traffic. You just weren't allowed to like bring your car and camping unit in, which is perfect. We didn't have to pay. And it wasn't that busy at all. Maybe there was like 10 cars parked outside, and we were getting there right in the nick of time for the eclipse to start. And we just walked in with all our gear. We brought chairs, we brought bags of food, blankets. And we decided to go on our journey through this park. And we trotted along the main path for a while, and then it started veering off in different directions. And we decided not to go where we noticed other people walking towards, because we didn't want to be with a group. We wanted to have a private spot, kind of in nature, surrounded by trees with some privacy to have a ritual, to give this offering and not to be looked at as like these crazy people. We actually found a campsite. It was campsite number 3, and it was beautiful. And it was completely secluded, not too far off the main path that it would be hard to get to, because we were carrying firewood. We didn't light a fire, don't worry. We were carrying firewood, barbecue, and the offerings, a bunch of salt, and chairs. And, you know, it's one of those things, you pack all this stuff for a trip, and you don't think that you have to carry it because you're driving in a car. I was pretty sore. It didn't work out that day. That was my workout. So we find the site, we're feeling good, and it's literally like, okay, literally the eclipse is about to start. So we set up shop, we open up our blankets, and we set everything out. And what I wanted to do, since we were doing a proper pagan ritual, was draw a protective circle around us for the ceremony. And I think having a protective space, especially during an eclipse, is always a good idea. So what we did was I brought a bunch of salt with us, and we drew this giant white circle of salt around us, around all our chairs, all our blankets, around the barbecue we brought that we never used. And then once the salt was closed, the eclipse started, like clockwork. And once the eclipse started, we set up the offering altar, and we had the structure where at the beginning of the eclipse, we're going to have a light meditation, give our offering to the sun, moon, and Mother Nature. And then the craziest part is my friend's boyfriend is a tattoo artist, and what he agreed to do is at the peak of the eclipse, during that 3-minute totality of the eclipse, the rest of us, so there's 3 of us remaining aside from the tattooer, we all got matching tattoos. We got tattooed during a full eclipse. Pretty cool, right? Here, I'll show you the tattoo. Let's see. Can you see it? We each got a dot behind our left ear. So my first approach was to do research on the moon. Where in the body signifies the moon. And basically your skin and your blood signifies the moon. So that's pretty open. But then when you get more specific, your left eye. Obviously, I wasn't going to get a tattoo on my face. No one there wanted that. So I kept looking into more nuance to decide where to get that tattoo. I looked and saw that the moon was in Aries. And Aries represents the crown chakra. And on the body, it's everything above the nose. And I was like, okay, that makes it harder. We're still face. We're still dealing with face. And I put some thought into it. And I thought of the above the left ear. So that would be like it has a connection to the left eye, because it's basically on the temple plate, connecting with that hemisphere of the brain, the nerve endings. And it's just a dot because, I mean, this guy had to tattoo 3 people in 3 minutes. So we wanted to be achievable, right? We wanted everyone to get their tattoo in. So we each got a dot, and how epic is that? So cool. So the eclipse, aside from getting tattooed and it being a beautiful spiritual experience, was just, the eclipse was incredible. I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. It was cloudy for the whole day on the drive up when we got there, but as soon as the eclipse started, it's like the clouds parted. We did notice that when we gave our offering, the clouds parted. I'm not saying we did it, but for everyone in Selkirk who saw the eclipse, you're welcome. And about 5 minutes before the totality of the eclipse, you could noticeably see the sky becoming darker. And it was a hot day. It was like 14 degrees that day. So I was just dressed in my t-shirt, and 5 minutes before the eclipse, I had to put my jacket on. I was freezing cold. It got so cold. Everything got so quiet. All the animals stopped chirping and stopped making noise. And I don't know, I'm getting chills. I don't know how to explain it, but it just got so dark, and there was just feeling in the air that it was like nothing I've ever felt before. It was electric. It was like magnetic, and it felt magical. If ever I'd say I'd witnessed something that's truly magical, it was this eclipse. And then during the totality of the eclipse, it was the most beautiful thing. I know this is a vlog, and I'm supposed to be telling you with words my experience. I'm not doing a good job because there are no words to describe what we saw. The fact it was pitch black, midday, and we were with friends. We performed this beautiful offering, and getting these tattoos, it was incredible. But just looking up at the eclipse while getting that tattoo and visualizing my life wish that I came up with, my life goal, was the most powerful experience that I've ever had. And I've done a ton of breath work. I've done a ton of meditation seminars, and I've been taken on journeys, so to say, through breath work. But this was so visceral, so real, so palpable. And I was just shooketh to my core. For all of you who did not get to see the eclipse, you know, next time anywhere in the world there is a full eclipse and you have the opportunity to see it, I'd recommend that you check it out because it is really phenomenal. Also, a funny story about the eclipse. Like I said, we drew a protective circle around. And so maybe like, you know, 10 minutes into the eclipse, because the whole eclipse lasted like 2 hours, right? It's just the climax of the eclipse. That was like 3 minutes, but the whole thing lasts like 2 hours. And so like 10 minutes in, the park ranger's just driving around the park, and then he like drives past us. Hey, he's like, what's that you got there on the ground? And I was like, oh, it's salt. And he's like, salt? Why are you pouring salt in the ground? That kills things, right? Oh, you can't be, this is a national park. We're here to protect nature. Oh, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, well, are you planning on cleaning it up? And I said, yeah, we're planning on cleaning it up after we're done. He's like, oh, I gotta call my boss. I gotta call my superior. I don't know what we're gonna do about this, but you wait here. I'm gonna be back in a few minutes. And we're like, oh, okay, well, sure, true. So he comes back a few minutes, and then he was like, hey, so, yeah, just do your best to clean it up. You know, I thought about it, and, like, everything, like, it's literally like where people park their trailers. It's all dirt. Everything's dead there anyways. It's just a little salt. It's no harm, right? So just do your best to clean it up and just take it with you and throw it in the garbage on your way out. And if you want, I can bring you a shovel to help you out. And but I won't bother you during the eclipse. I'm gonna come back after it's done, okay? So don't worry about it. And yeah, just thanks so much. Yeah. We were just laughing because you know, we're all dressed in black. And then he comes by and like the one guy's like chopping wood, and there's obviously like an altar with an offering and like candles burning around it. And it was just so funny. We wondered what was going through this guy's head. My running theory that we all went with is that like he called his wife and talked about it, and she was like, don't make the witches mad. You have to leave them alone. Go apologize and leave them alone. And by the time we left the park ranger was gone. He never came back to like, you know, tap our wrists. So that's a little funny story about the park ranger. We did actually pretty much completely clean up the salt. I'd say we 95% were able to completely remove the salt. We did put a lot of work into it, and we did intend on doing that too, because it is a national park. A little salt in a protective circle, I don't think harmed anything, right? So after the eclipse was done, we were all kind of speechless. We also fasted during the eclipse, and then we all brought some really fun, healthy food to break the fast with. I bought a bottle of de-alcoholized red wine, so 0% red wine. And it was really beautiful because none of us drink anymore. All 4 of us are sober. But it felt like a nice, drinking a glass of wine after the eclipse felt like a nice traditional kind of thing to do. So we did that. There's a little bit of honey from the container left over, and we all got a finger of it, and it was amazing. So Mother Nature really got some nice honey. And we had some vegan treats we brought. We just decided to be vegan for the eclipse. It felt like the right thing to do. And on the drive home, we talked about conspiracy theories and all the wild things that came to mind. And it was just such a beautiful day.